In section 2.7, we're going to look at the transitive and substitution property. So for the warm-up, suppose angle A is congruent to angle B, and angle A is congruent to angle C. What conclusion can you make about angles B and C? We could say, well, angle B is congruent to angle C, and that's actually one of the properties we're going to add to our theorem definition sheet. It's called the transitive property, which states if angles or segments are congruent to the same angle or segment, then they are congruent to each other. Again, the warm-up is an example of the transitive property. So I'll write the warm-up down. Angle A is congruent to angle B. Angle A is congruent to angle C. So therefore, angle B must be congruent to angle C. So that's the transitive property. All right, another property is the substitution property. Let's say angle 1 is supplementary to angle 2. And angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. What conclusion can you make? Well, we could say that angle 2 is supplementary to angle 3. All right, now the main difference between these two is substitution has a sentence with words in it, like that. Transitive doesn't have words. So transitive, if we take a look at these three statements, no words. All right, let's take a look at a proof where we might use the transitive property or the substitution property. VW is congruent to RS. XY is congruent to RS. Prove that VX, here's VX, is congruent to Y or WY. Okay, so first we'll state that given VW congruent to RS, given. Step 2, XY is congruent to RS, given. Okay, so since those are congruent to RS, they must be congruent to each other. So step 3, we can say VW is congruent to XY, because again, we've said they're congruent to, both congruent to RS, and so that is the transitive property. Okay, so now that we said that those are congruent, we can say what we're trying to prove, which is VX is congruent to WY. And the reason is the addition property, because what we're trying to prove is bigger than what we started with. And we don't use multiplication because it's not like bisector, midpoint, trisector, and so on. So this is the addition property. Okay, let's try another proof right here. Given angle X is congruent to angle Y, and angle X is congruent to angle Z. Conclusion, angle Y is congruent to angle Z. All right, so statements, reasons. Step 1, angle X is congruent to angle Y, given. Step 2, angle X is congruent to angle Z, given. All right, we can go ahead and finish this proof. Then we have enough because we've said angle X in both of these. So we can say, well, angle Y must be congruent to angle Z, no words, so transitive property. Again, remember substitution always has a sentence with words in it. Transitive does not. Also recall addition and subtraction properties. Addition property is used when the conclusion is greater than those given, subtraction smaller than those given. If you see the word midpoint, trisect, bisect, the double use, it's the multiplication or division property. Multiplication when it's bigger, division when it's smaller. All right, so in class we will start working on some proofs.